Okay guys, so quick video really to answer some of the questions that I've been getting quite a lot on the stream and just from anybody that's interested. Tevent Wand, is it actually any good? Long and short of it is, it's phenomenal. It will be the best weapon until they introduce a wand in future updates that competes with Tevent. Up until that point, even through tier 2, this will be your best wand. There's no two ways about it. If you're using it for damage, there isn't anything that compares with it. So looking at the tooltip, it says it's got a 15% chance of applying a curse that deals 35% of base damage, but it does this over a 30-second duration. Now 15% might not seem like a big proc rate, but I'll go into exactly why this is actually a lot more significant than it first seems. But first we'll start with the damage. It does 35% of base damage, whereas our Touch of Despair does 41% of base damage. However, Touch of Despair is only over 9 seconds, whereas Tevent is over 30 seconds, and that's before any duration increases. Now, the beauty of this is that it basically adds the equivalent of 3 more stacks of Touch of Despair when we're looking at it from a Curse Explosion point of view. So it does the equivalent of almost 3 stacks of Touch of Despair. It can heavy and it can crit. So it's just like any of our other dots. It's a fantastic way of adding extra damage. But there's also some nuanced things to this that make it even more significant. Firstly, it can actually proc from sleep. So it can actually proc from any curse effect, which means that theoretically, and I'm almost certain that this is the case, if you were to use Minzarok's daggers and get the 8% proc chance on that, it would actually proc off the back of that, or have a chance to proc off the back of that. But it procs from all of our curses. So you can actually manage to proc this through sleep into karmic. And this is where it leads me on to the 15% activation rate, or the 15% chance to proc. If I do sleep into karmic, you'll see why it really isn't a 15% chance, or it doesn't feel like it actually is a 15% chance. So if it was 15%, we wouldn't expect to see it on the majority of these targets. Okay, so there's no Tevent dot on this sleep. We'll karmic it and we'll see how many we end up with. So there we go. Out of all the targets that were slept, we got Tevent on 5 out of 7. So there's no way that this can just be a 15% proc chance, or I'm getting incredibly lucky every time that I'm procking this. But this is a consistent throughout all of my tests. Okay, so staying on the topic of activation rate, I want to talk a little bit about Corrupted Magic Circle and Rotten Swamp. So I've personally changed back to using Rotten Swamp, and there's a very specific reason for this. Now, the way that Rotten Swamp works is that anybody that walks into the lingering effect on the floor will also get the magic circle dot. So it lasts for 5 seconds on the ground, and anybody else that walks into it is going to pick up that dot, which means that anybody that walks into it has a chance to also get the Tevent dot applied to them. Why this is so strong though is because as part of our combo, if we clear the dots with Curse Explosion, we can actually then have it reapply Magic Circle and reapply Tevent. This means that what we're effectively doing is having a similar benefit to using Dark Explosion without reducing our Curse Explosion. So we're getting the full damage of Curse Explosion, but then we're also retaining the equivalent of 3 stacks of Touch of Despair and Magic Circle on the target. So I'll show you how it looks. We'll corrupt the Magic Circle, and then we'll immediately look for a Tevent dot, and we'll cleanse the dot, and it'll reapply it. So we're gaining the benefit of a full damage Curse Explosion and keeping the application of these 2 dots, or reapplying these 2 dots, which gives us a really strong pushing potential and the ability to finish targets off, whereas that's something that we've lacked previously. And this only gets stronger going into tier 2 as we scale naturally through gear as well. So this little interaction is huge when it comes to holding choke points, and it's a great reason to use Magic Circle over Decaying Touch, because although Decaying Touch does do more damage and will make your initial Curse Explosion stronger, what it won't do is allow that reapplication of the 2 dots after the fact. So for me personally, this feels like the stronger choice. But let's go on to some damage checks and we'll have a look at some of the damage numbers too. So first for this, we're going to do Enchanting Time into making sure we've got 3 Touch of Despair on a target, Magic Circle, and then Curse Explosion. going to check what the damage is, I'll slow the footage down, and then I'll do the same test again with Tevent on top of that. I'm only going to do it on a single target dummy, so I'm going to look to get all of the stacks on just the one dummy. Okay, so the difference between those two is pretty significant to say the least. What we're looking at there is a difference around 10,000 damage before factoring in things like heavies crits. So I'm not going to be able to break it right down to kind of raw dots without spending a lot more time doing it. But I think the take home from this is essentially Tevent adds a significant amount of damage to your curse explosion. So in terms of one dagger, it's definitely without a doubt the strongest weapon that you're going to be able to pick up, and it's so significant that it's not going to be replaced even throughout tier 2, and it's only going to get stronger as we get things like the Sacred Vanquisher set that's going to give us a flat 20% to our dots. If you've got any questions about it, want me to look at anything else or test anything else, if you're curious about anything, by all means drop it in the comments and I'll have a look at it for you.